On the agenda for tonight's live analysis, we're going back to 1971. We're going to be taking a look at T-Rex, and they're going to be performing Ride a White Swan. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to this live analysis. If you do enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So we're going to be jumping into this performance. It clocks in at about 3.5 minutes in length. So we'll watch it the whole way through, and then we'll get into the analysis. We'll get the guitar out as well, just to demonstrate a few things. But thank you everyone for joining me tonight, and those early donations that came in from Jeannie and Chet as well, so thank you guys for those. But let's see how T-Rex get on. We'll get them up on screen and we'll watch it all the way through till the end and then get the guitar out.
Ride a white swan like the people of the mountain. Way along, baby kangaroo.
And there we have it. So the thing about Mark Bolan was his voice was so unique and distinctive, and we'll probably have a look at that first, because the way that he delivered his vocal, the main thing about it, he had this head voice that he could just ascend into and had limitless range seemingly, but the vibrato that he had on his voice was more of a tremolo vibrato than a standard vibrato. So that means that when he would sing, he's controlling his air and hit the whole flow of air in order to get the vibrato sound that he gets. And a lot of people who have been subscribed for a while will know the difference between those two, of having the right and vibrato going up and down, changing pitch. But here we've got right, and it's a little wobble that's actually like tremolo. So you're stopping your breath from coming out and then allowing it to come out. And it might be something that is similar to when you might laugh and you go ha 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 ha. And it's just keeping that almost like a machine gun effect. But if you listen, you can rewind the video after the analysis and listen to it again and just hear the way that Mark goes, right. And he's got that little wobble in there that isn't changing pitch, but it's just holding back the air and allowing it to come through very quickly. And that was a trademark sound of his vocal, and it's so unique because most singers will be using a vibrato where they wobble on the note and they go ah and change the pitch of it rather than changing the airflow. So that's one thing about the vocal, but we are going to be looking at the guitar and the way that Mark just has this ability to throw in a little bit of technique, especially at the end of the performance there, with some hammer-ons, pull-offs, and it sounds like he's doing some alternate picking, or at least it looks like it is, with his right hand. And it's a shame right at the end of the video he goes off into a little bit of lead and we can't see his hand. We don't get the angle that we want to see exactly where he's playing it and how he's playing it with the techniques that he's using. But we will jump into getting the guitar out and get into the chords. If you do have your guitars out, then you'll be wanting to stick a capo on the 4th fret in order to play along with this. But first of all, let me get rid of that screen so that you guys can see what's going on here. And I'll move my seat back a little bit so you can see what's going on with the fretboard. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it as well. But another thing to mention, that if you want to get this sounding authentic, then you're going to need to have your wah-wah pedals out as well. And if I set up my wah-wah as I have done, you should be able to hear that difference between the closed sound of the pedals. So you get a very muted sound. It's exactly the same as going wah-wah with your mouth. That expression starts with your mouth closed, and you're taking out all of the top end, all of the treble, the high frequency sound of your voice by going wah. And as soon as you open up, that's where you then get the high frequency. Exactly the same with the guitar and the wah-wah pedal. So if we start with that muted sound, I'm not using any muting technique here, I'm talking about the tonal qualities of the sound. And then as soon as it's opened, you hear all that top end come in. So this is something that I have mentioned in other videos about editing your tone on the fly. A lot of players will use their wah-wah pedal to just set it in a particular place where if they wanted a bright sound, they'd have their wah-wah pedal fully open and pushed down. And if they wanted a slightly less bright sound, they'd maybe set it somewhere in the middle there and even adjust it even more to bring it back down. But anyway, those are all just personal preferences and how you like to sound, and a whole nother video in itself. But getting into what's being played here, we've got this constant opening and closing of the wah-wah pedal, but we've also got this, I'm going to play it in a fully open position so you guys can hear what's going on with the riff that we've got, because we've got, and because we're capoed on the 4th fret, of course this isn't going to be an E, it would be an A flat, but I'm going to refer to all the chords as if this is the bottom of the guitar, just for ease if you have got your guitars out there and everybody knows what an E shape is, so you can get your E shape in there. And we've got this 2 strums and then this little riff that comes in on the B string, and you want to try and do an upstroke there. That kind of vibe. And once you start getting used to that, you can be a little bit more wild with it, and you can see the way that Mark, when he's he's pretty free with that right hand, so he's certainly got that nailed down as to where that B string is for that upstroke, and then just continuing on that rhythm. So once you've got used to that, you can start to throw in the and just apply a little bit of that wah-wah to get that similar sound that's going on. So as we progress, we've got the E with a little riff like that. And you'll also notice the way that Mark is simplifying his bar chords, and he's only playing it with this first finger. So it means that when he goes over to the A, and again, I'm going to be saying an A rather than the D flat because of the capo. So we get into our A position, and he bars it with his first finger and plays the 7th up at the top. So like that. So we've got this. And as I was doing there, you can hear how I held back on the sound, and that is something to look out for when Mark is singing. He does that. So he's obviously going to be playing those chords when he is singing, so it is natural to want to try and mute those or bring them down dynamically with your playing as much as you can, and that's exactly what Mark does. So when we have this and there, you can see that I've just moved exactly the same shape that I had 2 frets further up, and that's all the chords pretty much that go throughout the whole song. So once you've got that, it might take a little bit of time to get that a little riff going on at the top. You'll also find that sometimes Mark doesn't nail that, but that's just getting the feel. It's more about the feel of the playing, just being confident with it, and don't mind if you miss it once or twice. It's just about getting that freedom in the right hand, that kind of thing. So once you've got that, and if you're getting into the real small details, the downstroke that we have when we go, the 2 downstrokes is when Mark's applying his opening of the wah-wah pedal. So we get that, just like that, exactly the same. So it sounds like this. That kind of vibe for the whole rhythm that's going on, and it's something that rhythm-wise it might be a little bit easier for you to play, but when we get into the lead, the great thing about this performance from Mark, and pretty much most of his performances where he goes off into a little lead line, he's got some serious technique in there. And here, because we're in our E shape, everybody will know that minor pentatonic shape 1, and that's exactly what Mark's getting into here, just sliding up. And also the killer is always in vibrato, and the control that a player has, just keeping it really nice and even and controlled, and Mark definitely has that to the point where he's kind of bending up and then applying that vibrato at the top of the bend, and that takes a hell of a lot of practice. So Mark is definitely he was an accomplished lead player, and when he gets up into the, he's just extending that minor pentatonic shape higher up the fretboard, and he'll be playing little runs, and also when he does go up, he's doing exactly the same thing there, bending up, and then applying that wide controlled vibrato. So anybody that does play the guitar will know how much technique is in there. And just to reference the part of the video where I said about the lead at the end, and it's difficult to see what he's doing, but we have a similar kind of sound when it sounds like he's almost going like that. Obviously there's a little bit of wah-wah going on at that same time, but the reason it would be interesting to see what he's doing there is because we've got what sounds like, and taking this as the bottom of the guitar, that would be our 4th fret, and this is all minor pentatonic shape 1, again pulling off to the open string like that. but you can see on his right hand that he's doing the downstrokes, but also he's doing the alternate picking as well, which is something that technically is another level up. In order to get your alternate picking accurate, to get that is a lot of hours and months and years in order to get it accurate. The other thing is, it sounds like we've got a little bit of, again, it's difficult to say exactly because we can't see his hand, but it does sound like at some point he then changes to the alternate picking, coming down with the second finger on the G string as well. He then slides down. And there's a little run as well. It's something like that. It's a really cool run, and then just kind of ending with that at the end. I'm not playing exactly what Mark's playing because I haven't sat down and studied it, but there's a lot of skill and technique in order to play like the way that he does at the end, because it does take you by surprise, because the rhythm is pretty straightforward, and we also have the simplification of the bar chords. Rather than playing the full bar here and playing our root note with the first finger's supplying the bar, and then we're just muting that low E string and A string in order to get that, just playing the top end of that chord. So you've got relatively straightforward rhythm going on, but then as soon as that lead comes in, it just takes it to a slightly different place, and in guitar terms, a lot more of an advanced place technically, because you can't just get into that learning the guitar on your first lesson. You can't play lead like that. You can't play vibrato with that kind of control. It takes years and years of perfecting. But pretty much the things to look out for that. I know it's a very short performance and it is really stripped back. The original record was really stripped back as well. And I know that here, like rhythm wise, we just have the cajon, that's the box that you can see, and that being played again, it's going to keep it really low down dynamically so that Mark is very much the focus. The only thing that I would say is that the vocal sounds like it's not quite where it should be, maybe about 75% of where it should be in the mix, and that might have been a case of the mic malfunctioning, or just not being high enough in the mix, or just coming in and then cutting out at particular points. It does sound like at the end of the performance that Mark gets closer to the mic and then you can hear his voice a lot more clearly, but it might just be a problem with that microphone, which is a shame. And by the way, I think we have Mickey Finn here who is playing the cajon and supplying that rhythm and just keeping it going, but the real focus here is Mark, his guitar and his vocals. And just to throw in there as well, I do want to mention about this song, and some of you might have noticed how we've got Mark not in his full glam gear, and this is 1971, so it was released before he went fully into the glam mode, and that really was the start of glam. A lot of people have said that it didn't really start until Mark Bolan came along, and especially the next single, which was called Hot Love. And just mentioning about this particular song, because Ride a White Swan was their main breakthrough song, or at least it got to number 2 here in the UK, so it was a huge hit for the band. And then afterwards, they then got a little bit more glam, and when Hot Love was released, that then got to number 1 for 6 weeks. So that was a huge hit, and that's the point at which that song got a lot of coverage, and the glam side got a lot of coverage as well, and that's where that whole movement and the image started from. Also to mention that before they released this song and went fully glam, they were more of an acoustic act, and they did 3 albums, I think, before. And again, they made that decision to go fully electric, and Ride a White Swan was very much the birth of that as well. So there was not only the image change, but the sound change. and it was a total change, but then gave rise to that whole glam thing that happened. And I have got another video on Mark Bolan and T-Rex. By the way, this was the first song that they were actually just called T-Rex and not Tyrannosaurus Rex, because that's what they used before, but shortening the name seems to have been the right move when they did it, and it was just downhill from then on. And this is a song that Mark wrote himself, and it's just one of those pivotal points in somebody's career and a band's career. And this certainly was the change in fortunes that T-Rex had collectively with Mark Bolan. And if I am mentioning that other video that I did, you can go to there for a lot more background on Mark and his career and his history as well. There's a lot of information in that video, but for this live analysis, it's just really picking up the guitar, breaking down what's going on the fretboard, and hopefully you guys have understood it. It's relatively straightforward apart from the lead. That's going to take a little bit of practice to get down, but I will leave a link to the video that I did before in the description below, so you guys can click on that link in order to watch the analysis that I've done previously, and I'll also pin it to the top of the comments as well, so you guys have got easy access to watch that video as a follow-on if you haven't already seen that. But thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight, and I hope you have enjoyed this. Again, it was just a 3-minute video, 3-minute performance, so we can't get into too many details. I mean, we could, but I don't think getting really into detail is something that will be particularly interesting. But it's great to look at this as a full performance and just break down the different elements that are going on here. Really, the dynamics is the thing that will fly under the radar that I mentioned about applying the... and all of that palm mute that comes in, very much catching the strings with the downstroke, that sound. And again, a hell of a lot of practice is required in order to get that timing of the downstroke and catching the strings to get that sound, because I'm not muting that with the left hand. I'm hitting the strings and catching it at the same time, and that will also help the rhythm to move along, because when it isn't overpowered or there isn't a hell of a lot of percussion going on, a lot of the groove and the tempo is going to be provided by the guitar. So when you've got that, you want that moving it along as much as possible while keeping it muted. As you can see there, that was very much the guitar that's being played underneath the vocal. So that's something to look out for. Even in these really short performances and really short songs, you will still see this attention to detail from the top artists. But thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight, and thank you to Daniel, who has donated as well, and Michelle. Thank you for those donations, everybody, tonight on this live analysis. I'm going to be doing another one of these next week, same time, same place, so maybe I will see you then. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you guys at the next one. Rock!